In Thaumcraft 4.2, there's 3 types of warp: permanent warp, sticky warp, and temporary warp. You gain permanent warp from researching things that are forbidden knowledges, like bone staff core, or advanced golems. Advanced golems have a level of taboo. They will give you a lot more warp than the bone staff core, but it only has mostly harmless level. Sticky warp is gained by researching forbidden knowledges and crafting forbidden items, like advanced golems or flesh golems. The third type is temporary warp. You gain temporary warp from being attacked by eldritch guardians, lightning rune stones, using crimson or void items. Warp can give you a lot of different effects. Some effects can be good and some can be bad. Like one good one is dark vision. Another one is giving you random aspects. Some bad ones are monsters spawn near you, or you burn in sunlight. And there's some neutral ones that just paranoid text comes up on the screen. You can protect yourself from warp by using purified bath salt. You use it by putting it down in a water block like this. And wait for a couple of seconds. And it should be turning white like that. Then jump into it. And you have a buff for approximately 20 minutes. This buff will be removed if you drink milk. And I'm in creative. So keep that in mind. You can also use a Arcane spell that automatically mixes bath salt and water and puts it out in a 5x5 area. You can fill it by golems and pipes. This water can also be used to keep farmland wet. It doesn't get destroyed by liquid death like regular water does, except if you have that little death. It does destroy regular water, and when it gets into contact with obsidian, with lava, it turns it to obsidian. You can't really remove permanent warp. Sticky warp can be removed by using sanitizing soap. It takes a couple of seconds to use it, and you hold down right click when you do. And there's just a chance that it will be removed. Also, you have a higher chance if you stand in the purifying water or is under the buff. Temporary warp gets reduced with time, and by time I mean that you need to avoid using warp things under that time. If you do, the time will reset and your warp will not be reduced. You can also type in some commands like TC warp, it's player name, set 0, and set your warp to 0. To see the command /tc help, and you get a list of the commands you can use. You can only use these commands if you created a world with cheats enabled. Or you can open a LAN server and allow cheat there, then it should work just fine. The only way to see your levels of warp is to hold a sanity checker in your hand. It's a high level item, so you want to be able to do it from the beginning. And you should also note that you can use those commands to give yourself warp if you would like to have a lot of warp for some reason. And before I forget, here's the recipes for all the different things I showed in this video. Bath salt, sanitizing soap, here's the recipe for a tallow block, here's the recipe for tallow, and here's the recipe for a Arcane spa, boarded jars, and I think there's one more Arcane stone. So now you've seen all the recipes you need for making these items. If you have any questions about warp, adding it, removing it, or something else, leave a comment down below.